Welcome to another edition of Real Talk with Chris and Ross, episode number 17. We're excited every week we get to come to you guys and hopefully bring you some value and some fire. This is obviously a channel kind of focused around real estate, obviously, because Ross and I have been in the industry for combined around 30 years. 3 decades of real estate history, training, knowledge, experiences, and also downturns. But so we kind of cater to the real estate world, but we're also very targeted to those because we believe 100% in entrepreneurialism and kind of driving that lane. So those that are entrepreneurial minded, mindset, vision, forward thinkers, big thinkers, open-minded people, those kind of things who look at business like a real business, that's kind of what we cater to as well. But we hope that every week we can bring you some great value. But we love just kicking back and talking with my boy Ross. Ross, thanks for joining the call today again.
Yeah, let's go. How you doing today, Chris?
You know what? I tell you what, right now we have some sun in California, bro.
That's big.
We've had rain on top of rain on top of rain on top of snow. I mean, we don't get snow over here, and up in Auburn, which is like literally 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away. Snow as in like Tahoe snow, snowing and laying on the ground snow. So yeah, I know.
Gotta get the sleds out, baby. Let's go.
I know. I feel like I'm living in Michigan, bro. Like this is how you live.
Yeah, I know. It's
you
usually
guys
around.
Not had a good year, right? You guys had a heavy year.
No, we didn't have a ton of snow, but it is usually around this time of year where we're ready for the sun to come out, right?
Oh man.
But it's been nice, man. It's been nice.
Yeah.
But hey, hopefully you keep that good weather up over there, man.
Seriously, I think I'm like today. I mean, it's windy, but God bless the sun. It comes out, oh my God. You forget how much you miss the sun. Yes. Like, I don't think people realize that. Like, you go like weeks on in with no sun, and then all of a sudden the sun comes out, you're like, your body just needs the energy, that vitamin D.
Oh, it's so good for you.
Oh, it reignites your soul.
It really does.
I love it. So
yeah.
All those that are listening, if you think we're crazy, whatever, I don't give a because you know what? I'm feeling good about some sun today, and I've actually got a good kick in my step. So I'm excited.
Let's go.
So we're just as we are every week on this channel here, just talking real talk. We keep everything topic we do. Last week was great about some real estate trends and some of the issues and challenges I think that we talked about, right? With realtors in the industry.
We went over a bunch of different things, the programs, things that people are always trying to sell people about, get rich quick schemes and wrapped in basically a different business approach that you can have to be successful.
Oh my God. And it was so crazy. This morning I was scrolling through Instagram again and another ad, 7 listings guaranteed. I was like, my God, you guys stop it. Like,
yeah. That's that phone just listening to us all the time, man. They're putting the relevant stuff up, right?
And I scrolled down because I was curious, right? And not to get sidelined here again, because we talked about this last week, but it was like, oh my God, this guy's like, yeah, the subtopics below that, like, we have a proven system. We know we've had I've attended many lead generating classes and listing leads classes, and we're different. I'm like, okay, it's all the same. Because you're getting your leads from somewhere, buddy, and it requires work, time, energy, and effort. Somebody else is doing it. If you're just going to give it to us, it's crazy. So anyways, not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Heck yeah.
As our moral of the story was last week, man, you just have to get off your ass and go to freaking work.
That's right.
That bullshit, right? Drop that bomb again. That was good. They did that bomb. We do got to figure out some bomb noises, but
hey, don't worry. We'll put them in.
I love it. Last week. So no, actually, I think a topic we talked about earlier, we're going to talk about today. I'm excited. I know you should be too. Our company EXP is always amazing just in itself, but we did get to see our end of the year numbers. I think everybody did. February 28th, yesterday. So, right, our Q4 numbers and our entire 2022 numbers for EXP as a whole. And we're publicly traded. So if anybody wants to contradict these numbers or feel like, hey, they're falsified, go ahead. Go check them out. We're publicly, you can see all the numbers and it's crazy. But I mean, I was like, go ahead. What are you saying?
Yeah, just looking at the numbers though, before we jump into it, I think the major thing is I think we can all agree, last year in 2022, most businesses were struggling, right? I mean, most businesses, let's face it, it was just a different year, a year of adjustment, a year of putting a lot of money into things that, necessarily didn't work, a year of trying to figure things out for what did work. So to see these numbers and the fact that we're actually growing at a rate that's way above average, in my opinion, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Is definitely makes you think kind of, well, what's going on here, right? What's so special about this that's making people, making the business flourish the way that it is?
Well, you're right, because I think every brokerage is, like you said, mentioned, it's been affected in the latter part of 2022, the last half of the year. I think we all started seeing a downward trend, or at least kind of a getting off the freeway. I always kind of use that. Now everybody's going 80 miles an hour on the freeway, and we actually just kind of got off the exit and started to cruise down to 45. And then you come to eventually a stop at the end of the off ramp. I don't say we came to a complete stop, but we definitely went from 80 miles an hour to like 45. Some people's business probably did hit the stop. I don't know. It depends on how hard you're willing to work.
That's
but
right.
For those that actually working and then had a solid business that they built year over year, they were just going from a 80 mile an hour to a 45 mile an hour lane. And so, yeah, if you want to talk about brokerages in the sense, I got tons of friends, handful of them, that have independents, boutiques, brokerages, right? That no lie, every conversation I've had with them so far is, oh my God, everything has changed. Oh my gosh, everything has slowed down. Oh my gosh, the revenue has dropped. The production has dropped. The units have dropped. The volume has dropped. Ouch. We're having to go back to the drawing board.
That's right.
And reconfigure things. And they've laid off a ton of people.
I know.
Right?
I know. And then that, and in those independent brokerages or just in those brokerages within themselves, if you're going to lay off a ton of people, now you're not going to be able to give the service that you once gave. Right. And so that's going to be an element. And then how much can you take away and still grow?
Right. Right. Because the value proposition should be that you're actually enhancing or building or elevating your agents.
For sure.
If it's about an agent-centric model, you really are all about your agents, then we can really suffice to say that your X amount of dollars were contributed to that specific area. And then when we start trimming the fat, as they say in corporate America, you start eliminating the highest paid roles and positions, because that actually is the biggest kind of return on your investment to increase your profit. Right? Quickest way to increase your profits, honestly, is to do that, right?
That's right.
Is to literally just cut off the top fat. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, instant profits. We just got some profits. No, you didn't. You just fired a bunch of people.
It's a short-term gain, but it's not a long-term play, right?
No, absolutely not. Short-term gain, Band-Aid. Yeah. So how do you create the sustainable market? And honestly, if we talk about, Glenn Sanford's vision in 2009, when he created EXP, that was it. For those who are listening, if you don't know the history of how this all played out, Glenn in 2007, 8, 9. Well, we all know in 7, 8, 9, that was the craziest, ridiculous market in history of real estate ever. And we're nothing near that. I think we were like minutes away from what they considered almost very equivalent to the Great Depression in the 30s. Had we got like one more step further, the dollar bill would have been as worthless as something you could wipe your ass with. I mean, it would have been worth nothing. That's how bad we were. And everybody was running their lives like it was just normal. Like, you had zero clue that we were about to be in soup kitchens again, standing in the line, and the dollar bill was worth nothing, and everything was going to implode. We were that close. But there were a lot of hands involved in that. There were a lot. There was just one person. Sure. The mortgage industry, though, and the real estate industry, they took the freaking brunt. They took the hit. They were the scapegoat.
That's right.
And, but whatever. So Glenn identified the number one kicker or attributor to why businesses and real estate in general was closing their doors was the cost and overhead. It was the cost to run the business. The cost of running your business was always the biggest factor in why they don't work. And if you fast forward even till today, again, we're not anywhere near where we were in 2007, 8, 9, but they're understanding the same challenges, right? Your cost of running your business stay at this level. Your income and your revenue and your units, your volume starts to drop down to this level. You start to see an upside down chart there, which is lost carry forwards, negative in the books. That doesn't work in a business. You can run so long on that.
Well, and that's why when I saw these numbers, it kind of surprised me, because we did talk about how last year everyone did take a hit, but yet, even throughout all the agents within EXP, even though the numbers were down, we still saw a growth in our profits. We saw a growth in our agent count. We saw growth all the way around. So it definitely makes you question, hey, this model is going through a shift and yet still gaining momentum, right?
Cool.
We're not seeing a radical correction. But I liked your analogy there about going off the off ramp from 80 to 45, because I think that's such a good analogy for how it feels. You know, we're not at a dead stop, but we did go to 80 to 45, you know?
Totally. Absolutely. And the reality is, regardless if you're going from 80 to 45, 45 is still sustainable if you actually have a solid book of business.
That's right.
Because 45 could actually get you right back on the freeway again very quickly. You might run on a frontage road for a few miles and then hop back on the freeway, but that frontage road is you just restructuring, reshifting, but you really have a solid book of business, right? It's still very foundationally solid. It's not based off of all of the other stuff, which is, I call it house of cards, right? Could fall any moment. And that's the buying leads and doing all this stuff and paying for all that. That's not sustainable by any means. That takes your 80 to 45 to like dead stop, because it's not sustainable. So anyways, yeah, you're right. 1,000%. I mean, if we look at even at our team Freedom, right? Team Freedom, EXP, we're awesome. We did what, 1,974 units in 2022.
Come on.
With $1.1 billion in volume. That was just our team, Team Freedom. So, okay, yeah, that's more than most companies combined, multiple companies combined that you're doing, right? But look at some of these numbers.
And we're just one, think about that. That's just one organization with an EXP.
With an EXP, right? Out of 86,000 agents, we're just one team out of that did almost 2,000 units, which my goal was 2,000 for the team. Like, man, it'd be awesome to do 2,000 units this year. And at the beginning of 2022, like, yeah. And this is before even we saw, the latter part of 22, like we even knew that was going to fall, like slow down.
For sure. Right. Like June, July, we really felt it.
Yeah. And I was thinking in January, I was like, all right, we're off to a good start. Yeah. Awesome. Here we go. And I was like, let's crush it. And, we did great in 2021. And I was like, okay, we could definitely do 2,000 units this year in 2022. And we were heading that way but we still were very close. I mean,
hey man, we were going 45.
Yeah,
right. We were going 45. That's it. We were just going 45. Yeah,
we were going 45, and we managed to still do really well. So yeah, I would say there's a big factor. That's why Glenn created EXP. The EXP model was designed that way in 2009, based purely off of that. And so if you're a business person that's listening to this, or this owner or a broker listening to this, you have to understand the pains and challenges and issues that we know you have. Don't act like you don't. You can pretend all you want and think that you're just peaches and butterflies, bro, and sunshine rainbows, but we know the truth. The truth is you're bleeding internally. You're barely making it. You're trying to figure out how to structure yourself just to stay afloat and keep the doors open, the lights on. That's what this is about. And there's no shame in that. Let's just be honest. Let's start with that. No shame in that. Because first I'll say I admire anybody who actually takes the risk of even starting a business. So good for you.
Isn't that the truth? When you look at the numbers too, it's like entrepreneur to real estate, 1 in 10 make it by year 1, 1 in 100 make it by year 5, and 1 in 1,000 make it by year 10. So you have a 0.1 chance of having your doors open for 10 continuous years. A 0.1 chance. I mean, that is wild. Yep. That's wild. But identifying these things, right? Like you're saying, like, hey, look at things aren't working the way that they should, I think is what keeps you around, right? Like Glenn, looking at, the real estate market and understanding, hey, what can actually last over 10 years? What can actually work? What kind of model can actually give back to the agents and sustain market shifts? Now you see we're in a shift, but yet we're still growing. And it's like having that mirror conversation with yourself and your business and actually creating a result can get you to the levels you're trying to succeed, rather than just being naive and acting like nothing's happening and trying to keep on going with courage and smile on your face and telling yourself, well, this is what grinding is. That's not always it.
No, that's grinding with ignorance. That's ignorance on fire. That's my mind. That's ignorance on fire. Because if you're really smart and you're a business owner, you'll find anything possible to fix what you got to do. But let's just be honest. We'll start with the fact that it's the ego. Right. Yeah. The ego is the biggest killer of all things, because your ego is so much larger than anything else that you'll refuse to actually open your mind to other options. That's the truth. And if you look at that, I mean, if I was Glenn right now, looking at where I'm sitting, from 2009 till now, and we are now in this new shift or realignment of a market, and we actually are thriving in our numbers. Like, numbers don't lie. Yeah, I would be like, man, I really did it. My goal, my vision was this, and we actually made it happen. That's amazing. That is success.
Amazing. And he's such a great leader too. I mean, just to talk about the CEO of this company. I mean, he's such a forward-thinking individual, and he's so agent-centric and agent-focused with everything, every step, look he even took the time to sit down and meet with our group and come on and talk with us. I mean, that is the definition of someone who's caring to hear, caring to keep an open mind. And if you look at Glenn as he operates, he's always keeping things open. He's not closing his mind to say, hey, I have the best thing here. He's constantly trying to make it better too, which is exciting to be around that type of atmosphere.
Well, that's a growth atmosphere, right? That's somebody who really truly wants to grow and succeed. So many people say they want to succeed, but they really don't. It's like your actions prove otherwise. It's kind of an oxymoron to me. Like, yeah, I want to succeed. I'm gonna do everything I can to succeed. But they rely on their, like you just said, hard work, grit. Like, if I just work harder. So sometimes, that saying is you work harder, like getting your success means you work really hard. And I believe that. I 1000% believe that. But there's also the smart working hard. It's the working smart hard. I guess that even says it, right? That's kind of, but working smart hard, right? Working hard, but be smart about it. And don't be ignorant. Don't be ego driven. So
well, let me ask you this, Chris, because I know we talked about your story, but like, okay, for you, when you were in real estate, how long did it take for you to even see the opportunity here for you to go all in on it?
In EXP?
Yeah. Just out of curiosity.
5 minutes. 5
minutes. 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah. When I was introduced to this, and I was actually watched the EXP webinar, but it wasn't the one that now, because in the beginning, Brent was just starting. So nobody had anything. Right. And we were just playing this thing that Rob Flick actually had made up. He made up a little video. And so I watched that. I'm like, oh, but it hit all the points that I needed to look at, because it was in my place in my life. And I guess maybe this is what's different. Everybody looks at things differently. I was always looking at how I could leverage and scale my business. That's it. Like, how can I leverage and scale my business to the highest level? Where can I go do that at? And if you think about it, any traditional real estate brokerage, you can only scale it and leverage it to like a certain level. That's it. Correct. You're done. You can only go so high, then you're done. And all of that still is 1000% based on how much you are going to integrate yourself, be immersed into it, and stay plugged in. So I'm never really going to leverage myself like I wanted to. And I could go open my own place, which I was thinking about doing too. Like, okay, I could open my own place and fully leverage myself by hiring, recruiting more agents, right, to my brokerage. Right. But I wouldn't be able to scale that. Okay, I wouldn't be able to scale that to the level I want to scale either. That would be leverage.
Let's dig into that a little bit more in terms so go into like what you would be trying to scale there. Like, what is the agent trying to scale? Well, I mean, yes, we know it, but there's people that are listening that, I really want to peel that onion a little bit more. So yeah, like you're saying that, hey, you would only have the level of, getting to hear at a traditional brokerage, right? But now you have this infinite amount of possibilities and infinite amount of scalability. What do you mean by that?
So I'll use the example of a guy who could, let's do it. So any entrepreneur guy who just like, I want to start a business. I want to work for myself. I want to have nobody tell me what to do, right? I want to have all the opportunities, no limitations, no walls, no ceilings. Okay, great. And I think that's the definition of an entrepreneur, right? So let's just take a guy who wants to sell coffee. A guy who wants to sell coffee, you literally could go buy Starbucks coffee cups probably and pay for them. Like an entire box of them, like from Costco or somewhere, entire box of look-alike Starbucks coffee mugs or cups. You can sit in the car, your car, and actually take the same coffee bean that Starbucks has and buy them. You can buy them at Costco, grind them up. You could literally pour coffees out of the trunk of your car. And you could park anywhere in the street. And like, here we go. I'm going to sell my coffee for $2 a cup instead of $5 a cup at Starbucks. All right. You would probably gain momentum and you would gain traction based off of that purely. Right. And you could do that based on yourself. One person selling coffees. You probably could do a couple hundred coffees a day, maybe 200-300 cups.
Depending on the location.
Right. Location and how much you can actually do as one person. But then it's like, I want to start to leverage this and I want to scale it, because the truth is I could do 3 or 4 times the amount of coffee. If I actually had 3 or 4 people, I would make 3 or 4 times the amount of coffee cups poured and increase my profitability. So
simple math, right?
Simple math, right? If I take 4 of my little carts, let's say I had a cart, 4 of my carts, and place them in different locations across town with 4 other people, and they each also did 200 coffee cups pours a day. I just 4 times my amount, right? So there, I've taken the model of just selling coffee. I introduced it myself. I created a system. I created a model. Now, how do I duplicate that and make it sustainable? Scaling it is allowing myself to take that in other places and multiply the opportunities and the units of coffee that I want to sell.
Come on.
That I can actually gain more money, more profitability throughout the day. Because 4 of me is better than 1 of me.
That's right.
And the same way goes to real estate. I can sell X amount of real estate, humanly possible, 1 person. I think, you know what? The threshold, I mean, I know people who probably sell 80. I know for sure. I know somebody, Luann Chicosco. Love that woman. She does probably 80 to 90 units by herself every year.
That's a lot.
Okay. That's a lot.
Yeah.
She doesn't sleep, by the way.
Yeah. I'll say this. The most I did in 1 year as a single agent was around 57 units. And that's almost a house a week. And that's a lot of units just as a single agent. Even past the 50 mark, you're maxed. Yeah.
You're maxed. You're losing your mind. You're like burning the candle at both ends of sticks. So it's not sustainable. Number one, that's not sustainable. Anybody can do something for a short amount of time, but can you sustain that? Because sustainability is where it's at. As we can see right now in our model, the EXP model, sustainability is everything, because we have now surpassed this last year where I'd say 99% of the brokerages have been in the negative. We are actually in the positive and the thriving, right? So yes, so if we want to talk about the scalability and leverage piece that now I couldn't do, and the same thing with my real estate business, is that I could open up a building, I could put a sign on the outside the front, I can go recruit X amount of agents, but I'd have to really build in on them, train them, coach them, everything, right? I'd have to develop and help them sell real estate, because if they weren't selling real estate, they're not useless to me, right? It's kind of like, it's a waste of time. People are like, oh, I got 50 agents in my office. Yeah, but 5 of them actually produce. That are 45 are jerking off. Oh, I shouldn't say that. They're messing around, right?
Right. You can cut that out.
You can cut that out. 45 of them are messing around.
Yeah.
And so it's like, really, what do you really have? You don't have a profitable office. You have a substandard office of 5 working agents out of 50. So that's not profitable by any means. And that's not sustainable, because those 5 are eventually going to probably leave one day, because they're going to get attracted to some other model. They're going to have some other opportunity. Something's going to change. I promise you that. Those 5, and that's why they always say recruiting fixes everything. So if you constantly recruit and bring in new talent, then your 5 could turn into 10, could turn into 15, right? As your averages increase. So that's the scalability. The scalability is now taking your model, your systems, everything you design, and now spread that out to other areas geographically that you could do, which is why they created, like Keller Williams created the expansion program back in the day. Like it was KW expansion, taking your business and going and laying it down in some other freaking town, in some other state, some other city, some other marketplace, and start selling real estate there. And it was really defined that way when they started creating the opportunity to generate leads online, right? Because that had no walls. You could generate, if you had internet, you could generate leads anywhere in the country. Really, you could turn your needle, right? You can anywhere. And so if I could generate leads in Timbuktu, then I'm going to go plant a team over in Timbuktu and take advantage of that marketplace and start. But there's a lot of work involved in that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I want to touch on a couple of things here too that you bring up a ton of valid points, because at the end of the day, you are still having to recruit, train. You are still having to retain. Recruit, train, retain. And the cycle just keeps repeating over and over. What I love about EXP is if we recruit, we train, we're going to retain the agent, actually, because they're going to have their own business here. They're going to have their own organization that they can build. If they want to go out from your team to go out into something else, they can, and they can still be empowered, and you're still empowered to help that person. And that to me was the light bulb that went off as someone who was building a team. So, it's like a lot of people will say, I mean, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. You'll talk to people that maybe haven't joined EXP. And I know this was a lot of my ideas in the beginning. Well, man, I don't want to be known as a recruiter. And then when you really look up the upline of success in real estate, you see that the biggest people in real estate that are selling the most real estate and have the brokerages are all recruiting, because they know that they need to have agents in their office to help distribute the leads, distribute the business. Like you said, have multiple coffee shops at multiple locations with multiple people in there. And because if they do not, then their business isn't going to move, right? And so here at EXP, and again, by the way, for any of those that are listening, we're not trying to oversell you on EXP here. We're just giving you some information because I looked at this for 3 years before I made the move, right? So I well thought out this company. But as you're here, you're incentivized to then not only want to stay and build an organization, but then others can do the same around you, literally. And it's intoxicating because it's just you're constantly growing something that really is infinite. And then you get to the idea of like, well, if I'm at this independent brokerage that maybe only exists in my state or a couple states, if you have friends, just being a good person that in tons of different cities and states, you now can partner with these individuals and they can partner with you, and it's not going to affect them. They're still going to be the independent person running their own show. And that to me is where the light bulb was like, boom. Oh my gosh, this can be global.
Oh yeah. And it is.
And it is.
It is. And I love the word you used, partner, because that's what it's about. I got to talk about this recruiting. I love you brought that because I got to bring this up. It's like yesterday's team meeting was perfect for this. Yeah. Because Elizabeth Riley was somebody, if you really want to define as somebody who's not a recruiter. She was not like when she said, I was not interested in revenue share when I got here at EXP, which is great. But let's understand and define and break down what a real estate agent is. What is their duties, jobs, and titles? A realtor is somebody who goes after buyers and sellers every day. That's a fact. That's a fact. I love facts. No bullshit. Facts. This is hard. You can't argue with facts.
We're recruiting all day. All day.
Thank you.
Yes, all day.
Yep. All day. Buyers and sellers. But her example was that she was really great at building relationships. And she felt she had to earn the right to build that relationship before she could actually get the business. So when she started her real estate business, she was not going to like, oh, I want to go try to see if I can list their home. I want to, right? She said 44 people was in her neighborhood. She didn't go there and try to sell them on selling their home. She went to every door and introduced herself and just wanted to get to know them and meet them and build what? The relationship.
That's right.
Right? So she was in the business of building relationships, even when she got a real estate license. So let's just get that. Building relationships is what she was doing as her job. And so number one, she built that. And as she established and continued consistently building the relationships, the business came. The business came. The sellers, the buyers, it came. And so she became very successful. As she said, she was the number one Keller Williams in Texas there, Arlington, a 658 agent market center, number one.
And and her story too to touch, she wasn't originally, I believe, from Texas. So this isn't like her hometown where she knew everybody, right? No. Like you said, she went to those 44 doors and created the relationship. So this is literally a fresh marketplace. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was in the recession of the 08, 09 that she did this, correct?
I think she did. It was like, I think it was like around, it was.
Yeah, I believe it was.
The 7 and 8 and 9, the worst probably era in history of real estate.
Yep.
But she didn't
all
go there.
Odds stacked against her.
Every odd.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like she wasn't so focused like I got to go close deal. I had to go build relationships, right? Because she realized the value of relationships. So, but what was important, my point in saying this is that we're getting to this point now where everybody wants to talk about EXP as, oh my God, here's a bunch of recruiters. That's all you want to do. Okay, number one, every real estate agent is a recruiter. You're recruiting your business somehow, way, shape, or form. You are. Okay. And you're hoping that the business you get from that seller, they go and tell their cousins, friends, neighbors, relatives, mailmen, and you would get their deal. They want you to refer. Referral is your best friend as a real estate agent, right?
That's right.
That's how this works. And it's by relationships, building relationships, and referral. Okay. Now, if you look at the EXP model, And the recruiting model, I love what Elizabeth said. She had just never went and actually recruited any of it. She had 72 people on her front line. She never went after one of them.
Come on.
They all came to her because of what? The relationships that she built in the industry, her experience as a realtor, her ability to shine as somebody who people wanted to be around. It's infectious when you are at that level of wherever you're shining from. People want to be a part of it. So my point in saying it is that Elizabeth was going to get these people to come talk to her at some point, no matter where she was at. She could be at Coldwell Banker, and they're going to be like, Elizabeth, what are you doing? I love your energy. I love what you're doing. It's so awesome. But at Coldwell Banker, there's no monetized scenario or platform or system for her to actually create a monetization around it.
That's right. Yes. Unless she wanted them to go under her team. But then again, like you said, they're going to want to go someplace else and do it on their own anyway. So it's not really a good move.
No, and that's not even, and anybody knows that the team model in that scenario, the traditional team model is broken. It's been broken for years. It really doesn't work. And if you want to have another conversation with anybody out here listening to it, give me a call. I'll argue with that all day long. It's broken. It does not work. So she's got herself here by the relationships. And now she's grown her frontline and her entire organization based off. So if you think about it, her 72 that turned into 12,000.
Wow.
Okay, again, it wasn't like she had to go change her hat in her career, come home and change her outfit and go into a different car and go do a different job. She was just doing what she did, just being herself. So everybody that's listening right now and wants to say, oh my God, I think recruiting sucks. No, it does not. Recruiting works. Every model in America, every business in America, Chick-fil-A, Costco, Home Depot, Walmart, they are recruiting. They are hiring new talent every day.
And, again, without the information and understanding of having that base idea of, wait, this is what every company does around me, it amazes me that there's the stigma that it's like this weird thing that EXP is doing. And it's not that it's weird. It's just that it's so freaking awesome and so new and breaking the barriers of what traditional, ways of practice was, that it's uncomfortable to some people. But once they gain the understanding of, wait, if I look up at the top of the, the charts of where all of the other successful brokers have been, where all the successful leaders have been, this is what they're doing. Then when you identify with that, you're like, oh my gosh, man, this isn't weird at all. I'm just partnering. And then when you come over here and you see how much people want to help other people, I mean, not even people like, and I really can say this, when you come over to a company where everyone is just on fire for this opportunity, they're empowered by being an owner, they want the name and the brand to be powerful. They don't want it to be like a, just a place where no one's excited. And because of that, whether you're in someone's upline or downline or business partners, what we want to call them, right? People are still willing to help. So they're the amount of tools and access and just, I mean, the programs and the trainings that we have throughout all these different areas, it's just like, it's a no-brainer. Like it's so funny to me because, like, for instance, Chris, I'm not technically selling real estate underneath you, right? But I'm in your organization. You're one of my business partners.
Yep.
You are constantly going out of your way to give us information that's going to help our sales grow, to help our business grow. And, when would you ever be able to do something like that, basically almost free of charge anywhere? It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. Right. Because you realize everybody, and again, let's be honest and talk about the fly on the wall again. It's always about the money. Let's stop kidding yourself. People who want to talk about, oh, I love doing this, it's not about the money. Bullshit. It's about the freaking money.
That's right.
It always is. Because you got to pay your bills and live and survive in this world like every other human being on this planet. You don't work for free. So it absolutely is about the money. So, but the difference is you don't make it about the money. That's the kicker. You don't make it about the money. If you do the right thing and build your business the right way, the money always shows up. It always does. Okay. So there's the problem. Number one, that is the, so how do you monetize an opportunity or a platform that is designed to work in a win-win model where everybody wins, everybody connects, everybody supports, everybody helps out, and its ability to be paid for it. It's just you can't make this shit up.
Literally.
You
Yeah.
can't.
Well, and like we said in the beginning, our numbers are showing it now too, because
100%.
in a market where we're shifting, we're still coming up on top. We're still in the green.
100%. And that's why I'm going to close this out with this, like we're talking about these numbers was like these, we can go on this around, but okay.
Yep.
Q4, $933 million in revenue, $831.1 million in gross profit, $7.2 million in net income. And our adjusted EBITDA was $3.6 million. That was just for Q4, the latter part of 2022, which everybody was going off the freeway, hitting 45 miles an hour. We actually increased and positive all our numbers. But for the entire year of 2022, $4.6 billion in revenue, $366.9 million in gross profit, $15.4 million in net income, and $60.5 million in adjusted EBITDA. So, I mean, we're talking like a 22% year-over-year growth in revenue, a 21% year-over-year growth in agent count, no debt, strong cash flow, positive EBITDA. Come on. That is like the recipe for the most sustainable company. So for those out there listening and says, oh, EXP is not sustainable, how are you going to last? Here we go. Give me your number and I'll send you a sheet of all of our numbers to show you exactly how we're going to last.
Let's go.
I'm just telling you right now, this is everybody with their eyes wide shut. Eyes wide shut. You're not open to seeing what it's really about. And when you are, the timing's everything. But when it's the right time, you'll open up your eyes and see it for what it is. Until then, you will be this person who walks around in the room and pray to God every blind squirrel gets a nut at some point. And so you're going to be one of those blind squirrels at one point you might roll over and trip over a nut. Good for you. Congratulations. I'm glad that's how you look at your business plan and your future. But if you want something more secure, guaranteed, certain, I promise you need to give us a call. That's all I'm going to say.
Let's go.
Well, awesome, dude. Ross, always love slinging conversation with you, my friend.
Hey, man.
This is
right back at you.
Right? Real talk with Chris and Ross every week. We hope we brought you some nuggets and value. If you're ever interested, fill out, respond back to us. We're our YouTube channel, Team Freedom YouTube. I'll post a link to it, obviously, in here as well. So we love to hear from you guys all. We appreciate your guys' time and audience and participation if you do participate. But Ross, man, always, I wish you a bid over all the way to Michigan.
Hey, I receive it, man. And hey, I hope you have a great day yourself, Chris. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Same time, same channel, my friend.